Hey. So welcome everyone for the State of Free and Open Source Software India discussion. I'm going to quickly present findings of our recently done report. But before that, quick introduction about me and Civic Data Lab. So I'm Gaurav Godhwani. I am Director, Co-founder at Civic Data Lab. Civic Data Lab works with the goal of connecting data, tech, design, and social science to strengthen civic engagements in the country. And how we do it is actually a two-pronged approach. First, improving access to information, majorly public information, using free and open source software, tools, and platform. And once citizens have the right access to information in their hands, how they can meaningfully participate in governance, in local issues in their democracy. So that's how Civic Data Lab works. And we work very closely with government agencies, research organizations, civil society organizations, media, etc., to grow their data and tech capacity. So it's very important and for us to understand the growth of free and open source software in the country and how we can play a major role in helping these different stakeholders work towards a common shared vision of increasing India's digital ecosystem. So we did this report with the support of Omedia Network India. We interviewed close to 51 FOSS researchers, practitioners across the nation, did analysis of 63 case studies on free and open source software, read another 26 reports which were on the similar topic, and framed our thoughts towards the whole free and open source software ecosystem, presented our findings, and requested 8 eminent experts from the community to review the whole work. So just to get the basics right, how we are defining FOSS. So free and open source software is a software that is freely licensed to use, study, change, improve, contribute upon. Basically a piece of code which you can make it, break it, find different aspects of usage of it, and customize it, contextualize it based on your needs. We are referring FOSS as an inclusive term, covering both the free software movement and the open source software world. Despite having different cultures and ownerships, they have similar ownership models, and that's what we are going to focus on. So that's where we have taken more inclusive approach of free and open source software. So India runs on FOSS. You won't believe more than 85% websites, web servers are running on free and open source software. Most of this is something that you might be using daily, but not be aware of. So IRCTC uses a lot of free and open source software to help us do ticketing, train ticketing on time. Supreme Court of India uses free and open source software to do Docker management of all the cases and help us do hearings at time. LIC India also uses free and open source software to ensure life insurance are done at scale. Also, Bombay Stock Exchange help us do stock trading at scale using free and open source software. All of them are using free and open source software, but most of them don't advertise it. So we don't know that they are running on free and open source software. And very few of them actually contribute back in open source. That's where it becomes a bit more tricky for us to participate with them. So imagine, given our developer community, given all of you and the amazing talent out there, if we could have created an open source ticketing system, it would have gone quite viral with the kind of different use cases we would have created in India as well as outside. So that's what this report is all about. So to look into how the FOSS ecosystem has grown, we have to look into the timeline. So we have divided the growth of free and open source software so far into 6 major eras. Number one is the inception of FOSS, which is basically in 1886 to 1978, where the whole new initiatives of free and open source software happened, discussions on copyright were there, etc., which gradually led to the rise of free software movement. The movement was led by Richard Stallman and other people from 1978 to 1989, shaping what the free software ecosystem looks like today. And then the rise of community businesses happened with the discussions on open source and how open source can help co-create software in collaboration with other actors, geographically distributed organizations working on different kind of problems, but similar technological needs. Then there are three parallel eras. The number one is the big tech fights back the open source, which started from 1998, but gradually the big tech uh, found the benefits of free and open source software quite helpful for them. So around 2008, the dust has settled on that. From 1999 onwards, we have seen global proliferation of free and open source software with a lot of communities coming to even India, uh, working and co-creating together with different stakeholders on how different open source libraries, projects can be scaled. And expansion in India, of course, have grown from 2001 onwards, and which I'm going to deep dive much more in detail. So we used to have annual conferences like FOSS.in led by Atul Chitnas, bringing in a community of FOSS practitioners together, discussing how free and open source software ecosystem can grow together. We also saw IT at School project started by Kerala early in 2001, where they tried to deploy free and open source software in more than 12,000 public schools, and they've scaled fantastically. We have also seen Government of India starting NRC FOSS, which is National Resource Center for Free and Open Source Software, which has picked up in increasing more government acceptance of FOSS in their usage. Similarly, we started to see states making some efforts. Kerala again started ICFOSS, which is an international center for free and open source software, looking for fostering research and collaboration on how softwares could be created with the help of communities, academia, and other stakeholders. We also saw starting of groups like SFLC, which talks about the licensing, the policy, the legal aspects of free and open source software, and more Supreme Court establishment, high courts, lower courts moving towards free and open source software. So there has been quite a lot going on, and gradually what we are seeing is more businesses are evolving, keeping free and open source software as core to their business model. We have seen Zerodha, Chatfoot, Hasura running their business operations using free and open source software, helping other businesses scale up as well. So what this leads to is major FOSS opportunities for us in India. The number one is technical growth, where we have an opportunity to become a global technology leader in emerging technologies which are very FOSS driven, like artificial intelligence, big data, machine learning, and so on. Where enormous amount of talent in India is quite focused to build libraries and packages on free and open source software and see how they can scale up the growth. So we need to invest more on seeing how this could be catalyzed, and there could be a strategic mission on moving forward with the new emerging tech. Second one is the economic growth with free and open source software and the ability to contextualize and localize the software. We can drastically improve the financial inclusion in the country, helping more young internet users use internet to rely on better public digital services, better digital services out there to uh, help resolve some of the issues they face in their locality. And lastly, the talent growth. I mean, we are creating a common based approach of creating knowledge pool of resources, be it data, be it languages, be it different variety of local lived experiences. All of it are proliferating in this software ecosystem with the help of free and open source software. So a lot could be done when it comes to growing the FOSS ecosystem. And these stakeholders, these four of them are key in moving forward this ecosystem. The number one are, of course, you people, the community of free and open source software practitioners, researchers. We have got a lot of them on a national and local level in India. The second one is the educational institutes like IIT Bombay, Triple IT Hyderabad, IISc Bangalore. All of them are now trying to have FOSS cells. Even schools and colleges from tier 2, tier 3 places have free and open source software related, some education, literacy, hobby groups there. FOSS businesses, some of them I recently quoted, like Zerodha, Chatfoot, and all, and even the MSMEs who are new emerging technology partners are now looking for free and open source alternatives. And lastly, the governments, national, local, and regional governments are also moving more towards free and open source software. So we are going to look into all four of them. And the lens through which we are looking at is very simple, four-step growth. The first step is build capacity to understand what kind of free and open source software is out there. consume ethically, work with different stakeholders to see what kind of licenses you can use to improve the growth of free and open source software, what kind of libraries, packages are out there which can benefit you. Contribute regularly once you have built the right base, you are consuming it right. Start contributing regularly, start opening up issues, start working with the community to find new features, start participating in the development sprints, and the communities out there who are volunteering their time to make the software ecosystem better with you. And lastly, once you have started to contribute regularly, it's time to collaborate and co-create and grow. So have big plans for how these softwares can grow beyond one sector, beyond one problem, scale to other domains, other areas in which this could be scaled up. So that's how we are seeing foresees growth for all the different stakeholders present in the FOSS ecosystem. The number one are communities, my favorite one. So I think one thing which we all are facing as a challenge is the initial barriers itself. For anyone who is trying to work in the free and open source software, who is interested to contribute, there are certain initial barriers which we have all faced. Let's try figure out how we can curb some of these for the new upcoming talent. So things like having leadership programs, mentorship programs like Google Summer of Code really helps bring new talent to the existing big free and open source software ecosystems. Investing more on that would be really helpful, helping with working with the academia to find more such opportunities to groom the upcoming FOSS talent is something which we highly advise. Second one is having more diversity and inclusivity. We have seen most of the FOSS communities are uh, underrepresented by different marginalized groups. Increasing representation of different groups is very essential, not just to build a thriving FOSS ecosystem, but also to build robust software. If more people are involved, most likely the software would be beneficial for all. So programs like Outreach are quite helpful for us to move in that direction. Third one is to have more sustained contributions. For that to happen, I think nurturing community mobilizers, working closely with them to understand how there could be a succession plan. If you are a community leader growing a community of, say, Python in a geography, say tier 3 city, you have to figure out how you can have a successor as well for you, groom them so that you don't face burnouts, you don't face issues related to technology overheads and community management, etc. So having a nurtured community mobilizers who are there for you to grow the community in different direction is super helpful. And lastly, having a global connect, invest more on research, invest more on collaborations, working with the communities out there. Coming to events like GitHub Satellite would be super helpful to connect and understand what is going on free and open source software ecosystem and globally. So investing on research and collaboration would be super helpful. When it comes to FOSS and education, especially academic institutions, there is still quite dependence on proprietary software dominance. We have seen there is still less proliferation of free and open source software in the early education of computers. So what we are looking for is more FOSS-led curriculum. And we have started to see some early experiments on this front where IT education in Kerala has improved, or also IT for Change in Karnataka is working to create curriculum with the public schools in Karnataka to see how free and open source software could be promoted in the early stages of learning computers itself. Uh, there's still limited FOSS education, so there's a need for more FOSS digital literacy programs. There's need for tailoring some of these programs for local contexts, local languages. And FOSSI at IIT Bombay is doing a wonderful job of doing the same by creating video repositories in multiple languages, translating them for different purposes, for enabling first time non-English users of computers to start programming in some of the popular free and open source software. So please go and check it out. We still face the issue of poor contribution and retention in the community. And that is something which we can fix by incentivizing research and innovation, supporting young academic scholars to do more free and open source software work with the community, enabling them to figure out how they can work in terms of incentivizing new programs for new researchers to plan different uptake of existing free and open source software, in researching on the needs of creating new free and open source software which would beneficial more groups in the country. Lastly, limited collaboration. Academia also is facing the same issue. So creating more open education infrastructure, the way the KITE program in Kerala is doing, where they have moved a lot of schools to free and open source software. They are now trying to work with colleges also to move in that direction, creating a common pool of shared resources. And especially in the time of pandemic, where education is least approachable for people who have limited connectivity, a limited bandwidth. There is a need for more free and open source software which can help us take knowledge which is stuck with certain group of people to more community members. And the best thing about free and open source software in education is students can learn it, can make it, can break the software, and we learn the best when we break it and fix it. So that's the kind of opportunity we have with the more free and open source software based education infrastructure. The third one is FOSS and businesses. Even with businesses, there is a limited FOSS understanding at this point. There is a need for conducting more FOSS workshops for early group of people, the early businesses who are just starting off. It's super beneficial for them to see what kind of softwares are out there which they can reuse, get some expert help on licensing, get some expert help on what kind of business models could be there for them to build on free and open source software. Also get some legal and policy support as they grow, because that helps them figure out how they can do FOSS on a sustainable basis and scale with it. Sustained contributions, even in small and big businesses, is an issue. We need more FOSS projects and sponsorship for different FOSS events, which are business critical, mission critical for you to grow. So sponsoring events, sponsoring community sprints, sponsoring new talent uptake programs is something which we can definitely target for businesses, because that would not just help the community, but also help businesses create more talent which can work on some of this FOSS project. And lastly, having more community connect. Find opportunities to work with academia, find opportunities to work with different communities, governments. Businesses can do a lot by creating different collaboration programs and corporate social responsibility programs to collaborate more on FOSS. Lastly, governments. So there is very limited FOSS capacity with most of the government staff at the moment. What we can do is probably plug some of the experts from the developer communities to work with different government stakeholders in a fellowship model, be it local or national or state level governments, to see how free and open source software could be beneficial for more number of people. This would in turn reduce the dependence on commercial software, and we would see more public money being used to create public software. And more procurements, IT procurements would have FOSS mandate in them. Also, currently there are very few FOSS repositories from current different set of governments. So encouraging them to publish more and working with them to fix some of the bugs they face in the software would help us create robust public digital services. And this would in turn increase the reach of free and open source software, helping us create more digital public goods, which are running on free and open source software, for which the code is open for people to collaborate, contribute, and work with, and have a bug-free growth of digital economy. And we are already seeing this happening. All these stakeholders, though they seem quite sparse, but they are coming together, especially in the time of crisis, especially in this pandemic, where we have to rely more on digital collaboration and come up with fast solution for some of the crucial problems. We are seeing, we saw COVID-19 India, a fantastic initiative where different volunteers came together overnight to contribute and work and create a robust platform for tracking disease spread in the country and now the vaccination drives. They are collaborating data, they're crowdsourcing data from different sources, they're collaborating to create robust digital maps and scalable mobile applications and APIs, which could be used for different purposes of research and analysis on this data. Even Economic Survey this year quoted them as one of the reliable source of knowledge out there on COVID-19 spread. We also saw IISc Bangalore, who recently published city stimulator on how pandemic spread may happen in cities like Bangalore, see a ward-wise distribution based on different parameters. They open source this code so that district administrators can use this to plan their lockdown initiatives, vaccination drives, etc. We also saw businesses like IBM opening up their genomics research platform for faster genomics research on some of the COVID vaccines which are out there, helping more academicians and researchers to work faster with the solutions they have. And lastly, we are seeing government initiatives like Kerala government working very closely with Corona Literacy Network, which is a volunteer-driven community network of open source literacy knowledge on Corona, and a whole suite of software which is used as a currently as a base for control center of Kerala COVID-19 mission. So all these collaborations are already happening. We just need to scale them and come up with a possible future where more stakeholders work together, thrive together, grow together, and free and open source software. And this is how it may look. We are calling this as a National FOSS Alliance, powering growth of India. If you're a developer, you're hoping to build more capacity of younger contributors, activate more leaders, participate in leadership program yourselves or help others groom their leadership skills so that there is a thriving community and bring more diversity. We can't emphasize enough on that. If you are an academician who is looking to contribute on the FOSS ecosystem, you can improve on creating better FOSS literacy programs, help us foster more research on free and open source software, build more talent to work on free and open source software, groom them. If you're businesses, you can incubate more FOSS projects. You can create a marketplace of FOSS alternatives which are out there. You can advertise the kind of FOSS initiatives you have been doing so that more people can participate with you. And you can support the existing talent pool who is quite interested to work on free and open source software. If you are a government initiative, you can work to create more FOSS-led projects where citizens can collaborate with you, can work with you, and ensure that there is better digital service delivery. You can think of creating more FOSS stacks so that the FOSS software which you make is replicable in other geographies. It's happening already with more governments opening up their source code. So it's easy for them, for other governments to replicate it, customize it based on different needs. And lastly, localize the GovTech, localize based on language, local context, etc. So a lot could be done in shaping this National FOSS Alliance when all these stakeholders come together, work together with a shared vision of shaping India's digital economy. And lastly, this is the team who has worked on this report. I'm very grateful to all of them for sharing their expertise, sharing insights, and doing continuous research on this topic. A big thanks to all of them. And here it is. You can download the report at stateoffoss.in, explore the detailed FOSS timeline, read more about different case studies, these stakeholders, and how you can play a major role in shaping the FOSS ecosystem. All of it is out there for you to access. And if you have any questions, feel free to go.
Thanks a lot, Gaurav. That was a really interesting overview about FOSS and open source out here in India. So there are, a couple of questions that have come in, but before that, a reminder to all of you that Gaurav is going to be around on GitHub discussion. So if you have any questions, head over to githubsatellite.com/discussions, where Gaurav will be taking up any questions for the next 30 minutes. So one of the questions that came in, Gaurav, is how do you see different stakeholders within the ecosystem come together to shape the future of open source in India?
Right. I think what we need is a national FOSS strategy, where we clearly articulate what would be the role of different stakeholders be. So just in my previous slides, I mentioned that if you're a community member, you can work strategically to activate more FOSS leadership. Similarly, if different stakeholders can have a defined set of roles and responsibilities, we can all work together to create a thriving FOSS ecosystem.
Great. I got a question for you then as well. How can you strengthen the community leadership in FOSS ecosystem in India?
I think the major issue here at this point is very less access to FOSS leadership, FOSS mentoring in academic institutions. So partnering with more academic institutions to have FOSS value education, FOSS project education, education about how you can participate in existing FOSS initiatives, some basic leadership and mentorship programs. Outreach is a wonderful example, which is trying to do that with final year students in different colleges, even in India, on how they can work to contribute in existing FOSS projects, work very closely with the outreachy leader, groom under them. And once you are confident, you can also become an outreachy mentor and help other communities to grow with you. So, and this would also improve our diversity, inclusivity, and equity in FOSS community, which has remained a major issue, especially in India.
Great. Thanks a lot, Gaurav, for sharing some of those, insights about FOSS and open source out here in India. So thank you so much for joining us today, and see you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Karan, for having me.